रूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितं च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्या प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे So here we begin chapter 5, Action in Krishna Consciousness, Karma Yoga. So in chapter 5, after covering the previous chapter, which was chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge, Krishna comes back to Karma Yoga. He does so because, again, Arjuna is confused. Arjuna is confused about what his duty is now. Every time Krishna speaks about knowledge or renunciation or detachment, then Arjun starts thinking, oh, maybe this is my way out. I don't have to fight this battle. I can just, take up an easier path. And like the spiritual master, Krishna brings him back to reality and says, no, this is not possible. This is not the highest path. You must act in Krishna consciousness. So karma yoga is very important. And this is why it's discussed explicitly twice in the Gita, chapter 3 and chapter 5, and then in many other places as well. But at least 2 full chapters are dedicated to karma yoga. So this chapter begins, the very first verse, with Arjuna's doubt. During the previous chapter, in which Krishna talks about transcendental knowledge and different types of action, like inaction, sinful action, and action and fruitive action. Arjun says, well, what do you recommend for me, Guru Krishna? Arjuna vacha sannyasam karmanam Krishna punar yogam cha sasi yat shreya etayorekam tanme bruhi sunishchitam sannyasam karmanam Krishna punar yogam cha sasi yat shreya etayorekam Me bruhi sunishchitam. Arjuna said, O Krishna, first of all, you asked me to renounce work, and then again you recommend work and devotion. Now will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial? So, in chapter 4, Krishna recommended to Arjuna a renunciation of work as one path that was possible. And he talks about this in text 25, that they can even merge into the existence of the Supreme. This is called not Mayavad, but Brahmavad, the Brahmavad existence, where a person recognizes that God also has a personal form, but they still decide to worship the impersonal form and at least temporarily merge into the existence of the Lord. So, um, in different times and different places, Krishna also talks about this path. But then Arjun is now curious, should he work in devotion or should he renounce? So then in texts 1 through 6, Krishna once again emphasizes that Karma Yoga is easier than Sankhya Yoga or renunciation of work. You may recall that starting chapter 2, Krishna has been saying how Karma Yoga and Sankhya Yoga lead to the same goal. They're just different paths, different ways for the same goal. One is work in devotion, the other is renunciation of work. But he's consistently also saying that Karma Yoga is superior. It is easier, it is more effective, and it takes us to a higher end, a higher goal. Arjun again asks whether renouncing work is superior to working with detachment. Krishna replies, both are equal in the sense that both are means to the same goal. But he emphasizes that working with detachment is easier and superior than renunciation of work. So the great self-realized souls who renounce the world, they are very amazing, very wonderful. But those who are working in this world with detachment, especially for those of us who are embodied and who are not self-realized, that path is easier. And because we are working for Krishna, that path is actually even superior. Because the person who's renouncing the world is not engaging the world in the Lord's service. So in some ways, they are a little attached to renouncing the world. But the devotee of the Lord is neither attached nor is averse to this world. Aversion is a form of attachment. So like Prahlad Maharaj says, that those who turn away from this world, who leave this world, go to the forest and let the souls in this world suffer the miseries of material existence without giving them spiritual knowledge, they are inferior than those who are performing yukta vairagya and engaging everything, all the resources of this world in the Lord's service and serving the Lord actively to bring others back to Krishna. Renunciation of work can be just as superior, but generally speaking, working in devotion is better because we are not also attached to being averse to this world. We are engaging this world in the Lord's service, and in this way doing something higher for the benefit of others. Prabhupada in the purport in this section, text 5, he actually makes a very nice point. He says, detachment from matter and attachment to Krishna are one and the same, which is a very amazing point that we should take away with us in this Bhakti Shastri course. It should be one that we imbibe for the rest of our life. That many times we are frustrated why we are not able to give up our material desires, why we are not able to become, detached from material things. We still are practicing Krishna consciousness for so many times. We were still attached to our position, our opulence, or our movies, or our spicy food. So we may feel frustrated that why this process is not working for me and why I'm not detached. Here, Prabhupada is saying that detachment from matter is the same as attachment to Krishna. So we are not doing well because we are not attached to Krishna enough. And therefore, we are not able to detach ourselves from this material world. To become detached, we need to become actually more attached to Krishna. That is the secret. This is why, especially in the early days, when people joined Krishna consciousness, then Prabhupada would tell them, just chant, just chant. He wouldn't ask them to give up things. He would ask them to positively engage in the service of the Lord, beginning with chanting, then also dancing, then also reading, then also serving actively, performing active devotional service. So in all of these ways, to engage ourselves in Krishna consciousness. And to do so very intensely and very intently. And by doing this, we naturally become detached. Then naturally our material desires go away. And we start to become detached from the material world. As you may recall, in a previous chapter, we read how renunciation is not the means of purification, but renunciation is the result of purification. So we become purified from our material desires. We become renounced when we become purified by chanting Krishna's holy names. We become renounced when we become purified by engaging in Krishna consciousness. All of these things make us renounced. Renunciation is the result of purification, not the means of purification. So that means that the means of purification is the engagement or absorption in Krishna consciousness. In the purport to text 2, Prabhupada says, therefore, jnana, or knowledge, that one is not this material body but spirit soul, is not sufficient for liberation. One has to act in the status of spirit soul. Otherwise, there's no escape from material bondage. One should understand that factually nothing belongs to anyone. Then where is the question of renunciation? One who knows that everything is Krishna's property is always situated in renunciation. Since everything belongs to Krishna, everything should be employed in the service of Krishna. Very powerful words here. First point is that knowledge is not sufficient enough. Just like we see that many professors of Hinduism, they have read the Shastras better than the devotees have. There's one scholar of the Chaitanya Charitamrita who's a scholar on the Chaitanya Charitamrita who translated the entire book, yet he has no attraction to Lord Chaitanya or Lord Chaitanya's philosophy. And most likely he eats meat and, breaks all four principles. And he's a scholar of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. He's translated the whole book from Bengali to English. So people read so much, yet they're not able to escape from material bondage. Because reading or knowledge is not enough. You must act on that platform, which means practicing the process of devotional service. And that practice of devotional service is the path of bhakti. When we lead a devotional life, when we lead a life with devotees, in service of devotees, in service with devotees, service to the Lord, then that process of bhakti, that absorption in Krishna consciousness, that is what frees us from material bondage and from material desires. Because we may have the knowledge that we're not this material body, we're the spirit soul, but that doesn't get rid of our material desires. What gets rid of our material desires? We read this in chapter 4. What exactly frees us from these material desires? Who can say?
Attachment to Krishna.
Attachment to Krishna, yes. And how does Krishna frame that in the chapter 4? Attachment to Krishna means getting what? Having what?
Love for Krishna, Krishna Prem.
Yes, love for Krishna. And love for Krishna gives us what? Yes.
And to remain in Krishna consciousness all the time.
Yes, yes, very nice. By being conscious of Krishna, remaining in Krishna consciousness, we become free of material desires when we have a higher taste. Right? In chapter 4, he says, by experiencing a higher taste, we're able to give up the lower taste. So, though these scholars have the knowledge, because they don't have the higher taste, they haven't tasted that knowledge, they're still unable to give up the lower taste. They're still bound in the network of material bondage. And we are also bound in material bondage, even though we have the knowledge of Krishna consciousness. We read the Gita, but we still continue enjoying this world, wanting to enjoy this world, because we are pleasure-seeking beings. The soul always needs rasa. It always needs happiness. And therefore, unless it actually experiences spiritual happiness, it is not possible for it to give up material happiness. So the higher taste. Now in the second paragraph, here Prabhupada is saying very succinctly and giving another reason regarding why working in devotion or detached action is better than renunciation of action. The reason is because renouncing the world is based upon, generally speaking, a false understanding. When we think that I am renouncing the world, we are thinking that we are renouncing something that belongs to us. The very cause of our bondage in this world and the cause of our problems in this world is this conception of I and mine, that all of this belongs to me. Everything around me, my house, my family, my wife, my husband, my children, they belong to me. They're mine. And I am this material body. And thus, when we give up something for Krishna, like we go and give a donation in the temple, we think that we have done a great act of renunciation. But Prabhupada here says that nothing belongs to us. That is our illusion. Nothing material belongs to us. And spiritually, we are a pure spirit soul. We're servant of Krishna. There's no question anything belongs to us. So nothing belongs to us. So what's the question of renunciation of work? Renouncing work is a farce. Real renunciation means recognizing that nothing belongs to us. It all belongs to Krishna. And so therefore, I have to use everything that I have in Krishna's service. And that is called detached action or work in devotion. And that is true renunciation. Since everything belongs to Krishna, everything should be employed in the service of Krishna. Like Srila Prabhupada, he gives a few examples, one of which is very nice. He says that just like three people, they walk past a wallet that someone has lost on the street. So someone dropped a wallet, it's on the street. The first person who walks by, he takes the wallet, he looks inside, he finds $250 and a bunch of credit cards in it, and he says, God has made my day. And he takes that wallet, he puts it in his pocket, and he walks on, and he enjoys the stolen wealth. That is the karmi. Those who are enjoying this world without serving Krishna, they're thieves. They're taking Krishna's wealth, enjoying it themselves. Another person walks by and he sees the wallet that someone has dropped. He looks at the wallet, he opens it up, he sees there's $250 in it. He puts it back down on the road. He makes a very detached look at the wallet. This doesn't belong to me, although I would have loved to have enjoyed it, but it's not mine. And he walks on, leaving the wallet where it is. And that is the Jnani. The Jnani is someone who has knowledge that this world does not belong to us. It is the property of God. It's not meant for our enjoyment. And so therefore he's detached from the world. But he doesn't engage the world in Krishna's service. He just leaves. And the third person who walks by a wallet, he takes a wallet, he looks inside, sees that there's $250. He sees the credit cards, and then he also sees an ID in there. He recognizes who owns this wallet. He finds their address, and he returns the wallet to the proper owner. This third person is most mentally developed, we would say. Everyone is the best amongst the three. And this person is the bhakti yogi, is the devotee. The devotee knows that this is not his. The devotee therefore does not enjoy the material world for himself. But simultaneously, this devotee engages everything that belongs to him in Krishna's service. He engages it in the service of the actual owner. Therefore, his renunciation is the greatest. In the Mahabharata, Vyasadeva and Bhishmadev are cousin brothers because Bhishmadev's father was married to Satyavati and Ganga, and Vyasadev's father was Parashara Muni and his mother is Satyavati. So they both had a mother in common. That was Satyavati. And there's a long story how that's the case. But although Vishwadev's true mother was Mother Ganga, his stepmother is Satyavati. And Vyasa's actual mother is Satyavati. So both of them are cousin brothers, and often Bhishmadev and Vyasadeva would meet. Bhishmadev is leading a royal life, as the greatest kingdom of the world, Hastinapur. I was just in Delhi, and Delhi used to be Hastinapur. And Vyasadeva, he is the greatest of ascetics, living in the forest, performing great austerities with matted locks of hair, writing the Vedas, the greatest sage of all time, Everyone worships Vyasadeva. So Vyasadeva would meet with Bhishmadev from time to time. And when Vyasadeva met Bhishmadev, he told Bhishmadev, he said, we both are ascetics. You are an ascetic in the kingdom, and I am an ascetic in the forest. But he said, of the two, you are the greater ascetic. So Bhishmadev says, how is this? You are so much more renounced than I am. You are the greatest of all mystics. So Vyasadeva tells Bhishma, you are a greater ascetic because you are an ascetic. You are fully renounced even in the midst of material enjoyments. While living in the kingdom, you are practicing celibacy. We know Bhishma's story, right? He gave up all material happiness just to please his father, and also because he was spiritually very self-realized. He was a devotee of Krishna. And so he was living in the kingdom surrounded by thousands of beautiful women. The most beautiful in the world. It's the greatest kingdom, right? The most powerful kings, even the gods were afraid of Bhishma and the Pandavas and even the Kauravas. And he's surrounded by the most beautiful women, all the greatest opulence in the world, yet he is unaffected by it. Therefore, he is a Mahajan. He is the Mahajan, one who is to be followed. The Mahajan, they teach by their own life, their own example. Therefore, they're called Mahajans. And he was living in the forest, living in the kingdom, and being an ascetic. And Vyasa was saying, I am also an ascetic, but I'm in the forest. Anyway, I don't have anything. I'm not surrounded by any material objects of sense gratification. So therefore he said, your renunciation is much higher. You are factually the greatest devotee of the Lord. Because while being surrounded by all of this, you are still internally, externally, completely detached and completely satisfied in your devotion to Lord Krishna. So this is a real renunciation. That's called Yukta Vairagya, something that we cover in detail when we get to the nectar of devotion. So now Krishna in this chapter also talks about what is Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya Yoga is actually, Sankhya is one of the oldest, most established Vedic philosophies, since the most ancient Upanishads and books of Vedic knowledge. Sankhya is even older than Vedanta, according to academics, according to historians. Sankhya is even older than Vedanta. So Sankhya is a very bona fide, very authoritative philosophical system. The Gita talks about it. The whole Canto 3 of the Bhagavatam is dedicated to Sankhya Yoga. At a certain point, Sankhya becomes atheistic due to the atheistic Kapila. But actually, Sankhya is not atheistic. So what is Sankhya? Sankhya is the original chemistry. It delineates very detailedly all the elements, in great detail, all the elements of this material world, which we all know as 25, including the soul, 24 plus the soul, which is the 25th element. But all the material elements are 24 elements. Now, this is a material science. Why does the Bhagavatam, why does the Gita, why do they spend so much time with it? Because if you look at the narrations of Sankhya Yoga in the Bhagavatam, you'll find very detailed descriptions, very precise descriptions of all these 24 elements and how they are covering the soul in this material world. So as a soul, I'm covered by earth, water, fire, air, ether, these physical elements, but I'm also covered by subtle elements, mind, intelligence, and ego, touch, taste, sound, these working senses, senses of knowledge acquiring senses and the working senses. So like this, we are covered not just by the physical gross matter, which modern chemistry looks at in great detail. Modern chemistry is very, very good at these 5 elements. It divides them further in many hundreds of elements. But modern chemistry misses these subtle elements, which are also material, but they're on the subtle level. But Sankhya Yoga identifies them. So the Sankhya identifies them. So, but Sankhya Yoga then is that after identifying these different elements of the material world, the yogi then recognizes that since we are not these elements, I'm not my intelligence, I'm not my mind, I'm not my ego, I'm not my sense of sight, I'm not the sense of touch. It one by one identifies what we are not, and therefore then realizes who we are, which is the pure spirit soul. So Sankhya Yoga is sort of like peeling an onion. You take layers off, and you keep taking those layers off until you come to the actual seed inside. In the same way, we're covered with so many layers of material conditioning. And what Sankhya Yoga is doing, what the yogis do using Sankhya, is that through their meditation, through their practice, one by one, they remove these layers. And then they are able to identify or locate the soul beneath all these layers. It's a very scientific process. Just like someone is very proud of their sight. Let's say they're a pilot. Or someone's very proud of their ears, they're a musician. Just by hearing, they can take out melodies. So they think, I am a musician. I am this person with amazing ears. But Sankhya tells them, no, these ears are not you. The sense of auditory sense is not you, but you are the pure spirit soul. So Sankhya Yoga is the spiritual philosophical practice of identifying what this material world is, and then step by step, removing that material conditioning to localize or identify the pure spirit soul. Now in text 7 to 12, Krishna tells how to perform Nishkam Karma Yoga. So as opposed to Sankhya Yoga, which is very difficult to do, only the great yogis can do this. I mean, imagine sitting in meditation for years and years and years and meditating on the fact that you're not your toe, you're not your finger, you're not your eyes. It would be very problematic. But some people are able to do it, but we are not. So then he teaches what is Nishkam Karma Yoga. How do you perform Nishkam Karma Yoga? One performing Nishkam Karma Yoga identifies neither with his body nor the activities that his body performs. By his detached actions, he is freed from the reactions of his activities. So, Nishkam Karma Yoga is completely, you could say, pure, focused Karma Yoga. You're not on the material level. You're not identifying with the activities of this body or with material activities, but one is only identifying this material world in relation to Krishna. One has no material desires. One is not performing activities for oneself, but one is simply working for Krishna. And this is why when we work like this for Krishna, we can only do so when we have some love for him. And therefore, Nishkam Karma Yoga becomes Bhakti Yoga. It's the same as Bhakti Yoga. And this is where we can identify the distinction between Sakam Karma Yoga and Nishkam Karma Yoga. So there's one separate category, that's Sankhya Yoga, right? That's renouncing work. So that's not possible. Now, within Karma Yoga, there's these two sections. The highest point, which is described by Krishna, Nishkam Karma Yoga. But until we come to that point, most of us are performing Sakam Karma Yoga, which means that we are attached to sense enjoyment. We are performing things, working in a way that we want to work because we identify with our body. Just like we think, I am a musician, so I will play music. I am a wealthy person, so I will do business and make money. But Sakam Karma Yoga is that we regulated that enjoyment, meaning that part of the result or fruit of that work goes to Krishna. Furthermore, that work is done in a way that is not sinful. It's done in the way that Krishna has allowed or prescribed in the Vedas. So a person doing Sakam Karma Yoga will do a business, but they won't do a drug dealing business. They won't have a whiskey business. They won't sell alcohol. They won't sell lottery tickets. They won't open a prostitution house. Why? Because it is enjoyment done in the way that Krishna has allowed us to do it. And although we are attached, we are practicing detachment, we're practicing working in devotion by giving part of the result of that regulated work to Krishna. So someone's earning certain amount of money, they offer 30% of the profits to Krishna. Simple. Now, Nishkam Karma Yoga is when we are not renouncing work, we are working in devotion, we are working with detachment, and we are completely working only for Krishna. So we are not attached to the mode of work. If Krishna wants us to be a musician, we'll be a musician because that's what we're good at. But if Krishna wants us to do construction work or some other work, we are happy to do it because we are working for Krishna. Yukta Vairagya, engaging whatever Krishna wants and Krishna serves. And we're giving 100% of the result to Krishna. We don't think 20 or 30%. We think, no, everything that I'm doing, I am and I plan to give it to Krishna. That's Nishkam Karma Yoga. So the distinction between these two is very important. We must remember this because this is part of the yoga ladder. We gradually move from jnana, from knowledge, to Sakam Karma Yoga, to not just having the knowledge of the difference between the body and the soul, but offering some of the results of our activities to Krishna, and ultimately to Nishkam Karma Yoga, and then to pure Bhakti Yoga, which is just working spontaneously out of pure love for Krishna. Right? So these are the different levels of devotion. So this is the next section, text 7 to 12. Krishna describes how to perform Nishkam Karma Yoga. For the favor of time, I'm going a little fast. So we'll complete that, and then when we have time, we'll come back and read verses, if we have time. And then in section 5:13 to 16, Krishna talks about the three doers. This is a very famous section of the Gita, because many times, not just in the Gita, but in other places, we find descriptions about how the soul is not the doer. Krishna's already mentioned this before. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasya ahankara vimudhatma kartaham manyate. That due to the modes of nature, the soul thinks that they are the doer. But in fact, they are not the doer. Material nature is the doer. So then a man goes and performs a sinful act. And he says, oh, I'm not the doer. Material nature is the doer. They say, no, you are the doer. Say what Krishna says in the Gita. Prakriti kriyamanani. Only a fool thinks that they are a doer. Actually, material nature is the doer. We can't do anything without material nature cooperating with us, without it giving us these hands and these legs that we have. So I'm not the doer, but no, you are the doer. And he says, okay, then I built this very beautiful building, or I performed a very great feat. And then we tell them, no, but you're not the doer. Krishna's the doer. Why are you being so proud? They say, but you just said that I'm the doer. So how do we make sense of this? There's a very delicate balance here, and it can be misunderstood. This is the tension that academics, they say, between agency and determinism. Determinism says that everything is done by God. We are not the doer of anything. And agency says, no, we have agency. We are responsible for actions. So Krishna here speaks of three doers. And he says that all three are doers. And we have to recognize what's our part, what's material nature's part, what's Krishna's part. So the first doer is a living being who desires. This is the living being who desires and who, due to whose desires, material nature becomes manipulated in certain ways. We are the one desiring. The second doer, number 2, is the modes of material nature. By the way, can all of you hear me clearly? Or is there a lot of background noise?
Loud and
It is
clear.
clear for me.
Clear,
Very
Prabhu.
Clear.
Clear.
Okay. Because I have a fan running here, so if it's unclear, tell me. I'll turn it off.
Loud and
Here,
clear.
here in India, it's about 108 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's on a good day. Otherwise, it's like 115 degrees, 120 degrees Fahrenheit, record heat. Material nature is very, is giving it back to us.
Where are you, Prabhu, right now?
Huh?
Prabhu, where are
I'm
you?
in Jaipur. In Jaipur.
Oh, you're
So,
in Jaipur.
yes, Jaipur, yes.
Okay.
This is where I was born. I was born in Jaipur. My family is originally from Jaipur,
Okay.
and it's Jaipur is close to Vrindavan. It's all the
3
same
hours.
area.
3-4 hours. Yeah.
Yes. So it's very hot. Madhava is also in Vrindavan, and
I know.
think
Yes.
yes, he's also I'm sure enjoying the heat of Vrindavan. So yes. So the modes of material nature, they carry out all the bodily activities. So we desire, but every young boy desires to be a star tennis player, or every young girl. They want to be the world's best tennis player. And based upon their desire, they work very hard. That's their doing, their effort, their desire to work very hard. But only one becomes, what is it? Federer, Roger Federer, something like that. What's his name? The world champion. Because only one of them is gifted with the arms to have that perfect motion of hitting that ball in the perfect way, so that effortlessly he can become the world's greatest champion. I didn't watch much tennis, but once in a while, um, once in a while, uh, I would watch, just, if I was sitting somewhere where the TV was on when I was studying in England, and um, and you notice like the people oftentimes against him. They had a broken arm, or they're super muscular, and with their sheer strength, they were trying to beat him. And he was just like, thin guy. It didn't even seem like he was, so, practicing so much. And he would defeat his opponents. Why? Because of the gift of material nature. So that is material nature's part. And he knows that. Many times when he won after that, he would say that, actually, I have to thank so many other people. It's not just me. But the main person, the thing that he failed to thank, was the Supreme Lord, who gifted him through material nature this body that was very good at playing tennis. And material nature is working with us directly, although the Lord is not. So one has to thank Mother Durga, material nature, for giving us the material things that we have. And behind material nature is doer number 3, the super soul, by whom activities are sanctioned. So Krishna is not the doer, but he is the witness and the sanctioner. And when we read the verses, it's slipping my mind. There's 2 Sanskrit words for this. Krishna is the one who allows things, but he does not want that to happen most of the time. He's permitting them, because this material world is meant for our enjoyment and our suffering, so we can learn various lessons. But Krishna is not the cause of the Holocaust. Krishna may allow the Holocaust to happen. Krishna may allow the war to happen in Ukraine, but Krishna is not the cause. The cause is doer number 1. The facilitator is doer number 2, and the permitter is doer number 3, who is Krishna. Right? It makes a lot of sense, actually. So when Krishna wants, if we perform a lot of devotional service, a lot of bhakti yoga, then Krishna will stop permitting it. He will maybe end a drought and send rain. But the reason the drought has come is not Krishna. The reason the drought has come is because of our sinful activities. The reason why the war is happening is because of our sinful activities. Cow slaughter, Prabhupada says, is a major reason for wars around the world, or just materialism, all sorts of sinful activities. That is the cause. But when devotees perform devotional service and when they preach, that Krishna sometimes, even though we are the cause, does not sanction these things, and he ends these wars. So the best thing we can do is to increase our preaching, increase our devotional service, and in this way help those who are suffering in this battle and this war. Prabhupada in one place also said that devotees should buy land. They should buy land because this material world is getting so bad, there'll be a shortage of food, which is what we are seeing in Ukraine. They've stopped the shipment of foods. Russia has stopped it. So many places will be facing great hunger. In the future, something can happen also in the United States. There's no surety anywhere. We think we're very safe, or India, anywhere. So Prabhupada actually said that devotees can get land and grow their food. Here in India, we were just discussing how it's very well known, very common practice, and you can see it if you just go to the market, where these people who are selling watermelons, they'll take this red color injection, and with every watermelon, every single one, they inject this red color, so the inside becomes nice and red. A few years ago, this was not even recently, I went to the market in Bareilly. That's where my aunt lives. We were going in the market. This is many years ago, like I was 15 years ago. And this man was sitting there with a pile of okra, green okra. And he had this bucket with green color in it. And you take the okra, you would dip it in the color and you put it out. Take the okra, dip it in color, put it just in the open. And people appreciate it. So, oh, he's making it nice and green, so it looks very nice. So even the vegetables that we eat today, they're filled with chemicals. Milk in India, also, this is not done secretly, it's done openly. Half is milk, and the rest of the half is like shampoo and I forget what it is called. Something else. The rest of it is this combination of different things. And when they come to check on how much water is mixed in the milk, like the food agencies, but they don't check for these things. So the people who are producing them, they mix it with all of these other things to increase the quantity of milk. So there's no pure milk. They're using chemicals, fertilizers for everything. So war or no war, the food is becoming so infected, so chemical. In America, we can get organic, and to some degree, I think we have some surety. But here in India, it's even more difficult. The land of agriculture and small farms, everything is changing. So Krishna's sanctioning this. He's allowing this because cow slaughter, meat eating, these are at a very high level. So the only solution to this material world, the only solution to this material situation is increasing our spiritual activities to counteract the sinful things. And that is up to us. That is doer number one. And then Krishna will change the course of this material world. Actually, no one can destroy this material world. We're very concerned about environmental damage and environmental this, that. But if the population becomes devotees, overnight, Krishna can change this world, where the environment will become filled with natural resources and greenery, and the temperature will go down. Just like we read in the Bhagavatam, Krishna was present on this planet, then Mother Earth was producing everything. There are greens, and there's, the earth was just so fertile. You would throw a seed on the ground and it would produce. Why? Because Krishna was present and devotional activities were going on. Similarly, if the world becomes devotees, or even a certain section becomes devotees, if there's many devotees in this world, Krishna will change the material situation. So we don't have to worry about all of this. We have to become very fixed in our Krishna consciousness. We have to preach Krishna consciousness. And part of that means having farm communities, buying land, showing people the nature, the natural way to live by growing our food, offering that food to Krishna, cooking that food in a nice vegetarian way. This is what changes this world. So one cannot say that we are the doer. We cannot be proud of anything that we do, because like we said, material nature makes things successful or unsuccessful, like the tennis player. And at the same time, we also cannot not take responsibility for what we are doing. We also cannot say that we are not the doer. If we perform a sinful activity, we are the doer. It is our choice. If we go to Krishna, then that is also our choice, because we are the desirer. And ultimately, Krishna is the sanctioner. So anything good, the credit goes to Krishna, because Krishna allows it to happen. He makes our luck fall in place. Then in section 517 to 528, Krishna talks about liberation by focusing on and offering the results to the super soul. So we liberate by focusing on the super soul, focusing on offering the results to Krishna. One who in knowledge fixes his consciousness on the super soul in devotion and remains poised, attains liberation in the near future. So, very important point here that we must remember. We must offer the results to Krishna, but we also have to fix our mind on Krishna. And this is being mentioned here in this section. Fixed in devotion by performing our activities for Krishna. So one of the ways in which we can judge the success of our day and of our months and our years is we can think, how much of the day did I spend focused on Krishna? So, like my day is like always like completely this material thing, this, work, shopping, this, that. And by the end of the day, you come home and you're like, you have 15 minutes and you have to go to sleep. So I think, well, every day it goes like this. And every day performing everything, trying to get everything done, but no real progress is being made. So I started to think that every day I can think, well, how much of this day did I spend actually focused on Krishna? Did I, how Krishna conscious was my day? How much time did I spend reading? How much time did I spend chanting? How much time did I spend doing some devotional activity? And let me spend more and more time each day focused on Krishna, and less time in getting the little things done, less time in just being busy, in just looking at the news or getting my work done. And that is real success. Because otherwise, every day goes by and we think, oh, next day I'll do something. And the next day never comes. So the goal is that we must fix our consciousness on the super soul. And that's done every day. How much time can I spend? Text 18, very, very famous verse of the Gita, very famous verse. We have to highlight this. I believe this is a memorization verse. And this talks about the vision. of the yogi, the true vision by which a person works in this world and does not become entangled. And that's text 18. Vidya vinaya sampanne brahmane gavihastini shuni chaiva shupakecha pandita samadarshina. The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater, an outcast. So, very famous verse, very nice verse. Verse tells us the path to true equality. People talk about equality, they talk about racism, they talk about race, and this is the verse to pull out when we talk about equality. Because on the material level, Krishna says that we are unequal. We are different. We are not equal. Someone is tall, someone is short, someone is fat, someone is thin, someone is smart, someone is not so smart. Someone is a dog, someone is a cow, someone is an elephant, and someone is a human being. So what is there a question? Where is there equality? But equality is there on the spiritual level. Everyone is a pure spirit soul. Everyone is a servant of God. In every person's heart, God is residing. And that is where true equality is to be found. So the sage works in devotion. He works in Krishna consciousness because he's able to see everyone equally. He's able to see the Lord present within every person's heart. He's able to see Krishna within the heart of every living being, and therefore he can respect every living being. Because in every living being, Krishna is there. However horrible they may be, however fallen they may be, however much we may hate them, but Krishna still loves them because Krishna is in their heart. Krishna's never left them. So the sage sees the Lord within that heart, and therefore he can be equal to everyone. He even sees a dog and a dog eater and a brahmana to be the same. A dog eater is very fallen, right? I mean, among all the types of meat, dog meat is considered the worst in some ways. Not the most sinful cow meat. But dog eaters were considered outcasts. Brahmanas were considered the top caste. But the sage sees the brahmana and the dog eater to be the same, because both of them are pure spirit soul. Ultimately, they are the same. Right now, they are in different states of consciousness, but ultimately they are the same. So this is the knowledge, the vision of the great sage. And the purport to this verse is very nice. So please read it to text 18. It's a nice purport. Prabhupada so nicely explains this verse. Just 1 second. I'm going to turn off this fan. I'm feeling a little cold now. And text 21 says, such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. So this sentence, this phrase, I really like. It says, an intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery. which are due to contact with the material senses. So the material things are sources of misery. And why are they sources of misery? Because they have a beginning and an end. So the more I gain in this world, the more I have to lose. So actually, more material pleasure is actually more material pain. This is why the devotee doesn't see material pleasure as material pleasure. This is why the devotee actually sees material happiness to be equal to material suffering. Because the greater the happiness, the greater the pain. Just like in 2008, when the stock market crashed, then the people who had more pain because they lost more. The people who were, just cooks and chefs, and they were, cutting vegetables in a salad bar. 2008 came, any 2020 could come, 2005 could come. It didn't make any difference to them because they didn't have any stocks. They didn't own any property. They're just earning their $10 an hour, and they're still earning it during the recession. They had nothing to gain. They had nothing to lose. In the same way, if we become very attached to this material body and we have a very nice facility, very nice home, very nice everything, when we die, then we feel more pain because we're leaving back more. We have more attachments to be pried away from, to be pulled away from. So the devotee, knowing this, does not take part in the sources of misery. He invests himself in what is permanent. He doesn't invest himself in what is temporary. Just like recently, someone asked this question from His Holiness Romapat Swami Maharaj. They said that, sometimes there's arguments, there's fights, and what should we do? And so we become very wronged. Someone really mistreats us. So Maharaj's advice was, he said that, try to resolve it. If you cannot, then drop it. Just drop it. And invest yourself in what is permanent rather than what is temporary. That is the way. Because when we're not doing that, we are investing ourselves in sources of misery. We're spending time, we're spending energy in what is a source of misery. The mistake is not whether we're right or wrong. The mistake is spending time in a place we should not. Rather, invest our time in that which is sat, that which is permanent. That's what a devotee does. He focuses more on his spiritual life. He invests in his spiritual life rather than investing in his material life. Text 25. Those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts, whose minds are engaged within, are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and who are free from all sins, achieve liberation in the Supreme. So here, Krishna concludes everything that we've been talking about. Such a beautiful verse. Those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts, whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and who are free from all sins, achieve liberation in the Supreme. So those who are actually beyond doubts and dualities are not the so-called meditators. They are busy working for the welfare of all. This is Nishkam Karma Yoga. They are free from sins, and therefore they get liberation. Purport. Only a person who is fully in Krishna consciousness can be said to be engaged in welfare work for all living entities. If anyone had any doubt, this is where Prabhupada confirmed that preaching is the highest service, or propagation of Krishna consciousness is the highest service, not some sort of nirjan bhajan. Those who is fully Krishna conscious can be said to be engaged in welfare work for all living entities. When a person is actually in the knowledge that Krishna is the fountainhead of everything, then when he acts in that spirit, he acts for everyone. then when he acts in that spirit, he acts for everyone. The sufferings of humanity are due to forgetfulness of Krishna as the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and the supreme friend. So the suffering of humanity is why when we forget that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and the supreme friend, Therefore, to act to revive this consciousness within the entire human society is the highest welfare work. One cannot be engaged in such first-class welfare work without being liberated in the supreme. Krishna conscious person has no doubt of the supremacy of Krishna. He has no doubt because he is completely freed from all sins. That is a state of divine love. Prabhupada has actually made many points here that are very deep, more than what can be seen on the surface. One point, for example, is that he said, one cannot be engaged in such first-class welfare work without being liberated in the supreme. So, this one that's italicized. This is the one I said. He has no doubt because he is completely freed from all sins. Our doubts and our lack of Krishna consciousness comes because of sinful life. When we're free from sins, then we can actually taste Krishna. We can actually experience Krishna. And this is why, yes, our personal effort is so important. Because though we may be in touch with devotees and though we have the mercy and everything, all these things, if we're engaged in sinful activities, our mind will not be clear. We won't be able, we'll still have many doubts. Doubts come from sinful activities. So to actually have a very peaceful life in existence, and we can see this in our own life, we can actually practically ascertain this. We have to become free from sinful activities. We have to give up the life sins. We have to give up those movies. We have to give up that non-Krishna prasada. There's no shortcut. There's no there's no way to cheat Krishna and get, an easy route where we can be, a world-class devotee and also have a real, cool life, life in a sense enjoyment, partly, we have to lead that life. So very deep point here. Sinful life creates doubts, which creates questions about Krishna, and which stops us from experiencing this divine love by being in that state of divine love. So to act to revive this consciousness within the entire human society is the highest welfare work. We must be sure that the solution to all the world's problems is reviving their Krishna consciousness. That is the solution. That is how we can help. People are suffering so much. This war is so horrible. This is how we can help. We must revive people's spiritual consciousness. And therefore then, in text 529, very, very famous, Krishna talks about the peace formula. A person in full Krishna consciousness, full consciousness of Krishna attains liberation from the pangs of material miseries. Krishna confirms this in text 12 and also text 29, the peace formula, which I'm going to read for you. This is the most famous verse of chapter 5. 1 second here. Let me just bring it up here. In this world of war, this is how we can get peace, not by being nationalistic, not by being a pacifist, but by these three things: Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam Yatvam shantim richati. The Gita's peace formula is a person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. This purport is very nice. I'll just quickly emphasize a few things. So Krishna is the proprietor of everything. We can never have peace in this world if we think this is my land, or someone else thinks this is my land, this is your land. All land belongs to Krishna. So Prabhupada says we are not capitalists or communists, we are spiritual communists. We believe only Krishna is the proprietor of everything. We are simply the caretakers for some time. And the second point here is that Krishna is a benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities. So it's not just that Krishna, devotee doesn't just think that he's the friend of all living entities. Sorry, the devotee is not the enemy of anyone, but he also realizes that he's not the friend of everyone. If we think I'm the friend of every living being, I can save everyone, I can help everyone, that is also a misnomer. That will make us unpeaceful. Krishna is the one who can help everyone because he is the well-wisher and benefactor of everyone. Krishna is a friend of every living entity. So some people will not be friends to us, even if we're pure devotees, because we're not God. And the devotee accepts that. But his main concern is that they should be friends with Krishna, and Krishna is friends with them. That is the main thing. So rather than trying to make friendship with everyone, a devotee tries to make everyone Krishna's friend. You know, you have like some gurus, the hugging gurus, who go and try to hug everyone. The hugging mother, there's one who came, Amma. And the problem is now she stopped hugging. It's actually a fact. I'm not saying this as a joke. She would hug about 10,000 people a day. So she would have lines of people and in a big pandal, and she would just, be hugging 10,000 people a day. And what happened was because of doing that repetitious movement, she got arthritis in her shoulders. And now she can't hug people. Why? Because it's still based upon a misconception where she is thinking, I am the well-wisher of all living entities. But even if we want, we cannot hug everyone because Krishna is the well-wisher of all living entities. Our role is to take everyone to Krishna and make everyone realize that he is Suhridam. He is the best friend of all living entities. And Prabhupada says anyone who remembers this verse in the morning and evening will never have any agitation because he'll remember that I have no friend in this world, but Krishna is my friend. He is my unalloyed friend who has been coming with me for millions of lifetimes because his love for me is perfect. And I need to find this friend. The Bhagavatam talks about this friend as Agyata, Avigyata Sakha, the unknown friend, or rather the forgotten friend. We make so many friends in this world, but we forget about our dearest friend who's sitting in our heart, and we don't make friendship with him. Therefore, there's no peace. Because our material friends, they are fair weather friends. When things are good, they're with us. Otherwise, they leave us. But Krishna never leaves us. So Krishna is the beneficiary of everything. We will become peaceful when we realize that I cannot enjoy things. Krishna is the enjoyer. It's okay if I'm not enjoying. Krishna's enjoying, that's my enjoyment. Number two, Krishna is the Lord of all planets and demigods. Everything belongs to Krishna. My house, my property, my land, my country belongs to Krishna. And the third is that I am not the friend, but Krishna is the friend of all living entities. Krishna is the well-wisher of all living entities. And Krishna is my friend and well-wisher as well. If we remember these three things, we get free from the pangs of material miseries. So this is chapter 5 for you. I missed a lot of things. I skipped a lot of things, but this is the essence, and I hope you'll enjoy reading more about it. So we have about 5 minutes for questions and answers. I want to 5 to 10 minutes, and then we can end. Any questions, please raise your hand. Rashi?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I have a small question regarding the wars we were discussing about Ukraine, and you mentioned that it is the desire or the karma of people who are doing it. But there are some innocent devotees also who are suffering. So how can we understand this part? Like it was not their desire, maybe it was desire of a few people, but there are many who were suffering in this. So how can we contemplate this?
Yes. So the case of the few devotees is different, because to the devotees, Krishna sometimes puts tests. But in general, even in terms of the innocent citizens, to some degree, it is also their desire, because it's a result of our choices that the reactions, right? And that's a hard nut to swallow, but Prabhupada is telling us that if we engage in cow slaughter, then wars will happen. So that is our choice. It's our choice to kill animals, offenseless, innocent animals, and bring that reaction upon us. I was just reading a verse in the Bhagavatam. Prabhupada is explaining so nicely. He says, why is, this was a section in the Bhagavatam of Parikshit and Kali, and the beginning of Kali Yuga, starting with animal slaughter. And Prabhupada says that how the cow is the most offenseless creature, because it just gives us its milk, and every part of the cow is auspicious. Even its stool is fertilizer. So therefore, it's the most offenseless creature in this world. And therefore, when we kill it, it's the greatest offense. It's the greatest injustice. Yeah, it's the greatest injustice to the most offenseless creature. So today we see animals slaughter, millions of people, millions of cows are killed, millions upon millions. And the result is these wars. Now we may say, well, why not America that kills so many cows? Why Ukraine? Why Russia? Why aren't the places that kill cows the most getting the most reaction? Well, they are getting it, but in other ways, right? In the pandemic, America suffered the most, arguably, in the whole world. Most number of people died, in spite of the fact it's the most advanced country. Flus kill Americans so much, 80 to 100,000 every year. So many diseases, cancer, the reaction is coming. It comes in different ways. And in other countries, it comes in other ways. Now, in the case of devotees, it may come as a test. So in the case of devotees, there's no karma, because they have decided, they've chosen to lead the life of Krishna consciousness. So in their case, Krishna is testing their devotion or putting them through some difficulties, or they're voluntarily accepting those difficulties to help others. Some devotees stayed back to preach and help. So devotees are different, yes. But as far as I think your question is in terms of the innocent people, only a few leaders chose this, not the innocent people. So why are they suffering? It wasn't their choice. Well, in this way, to some degree, it's their choice. But that doesn't mean that we don't have compassion for them, because they're acting in this way out of a lack of knowledge. And therefore, it's our duty to give them this knowledge, to help them advance in spiritual life, just like we should help our fellow Americans or Indians, or places where there isn't war, places where people are dying because of so many diseases and cancers and all these things. We should help them also, because due to a lack of knowledge, they're choosing the wrong things. Does that answer your question, Vivek?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much. But what about there must be people who are vegetarians, right? Who have never touched meat. They might have been part of this as well, right?
So there's one saying, it says that the wheels of karma grind slowly, but they grind very fine. So meat eating is not the only problem. There's also other things. And we don't know from what lifetime, for what point reactions are coming. But that's the whole point, actually, that if we are established in sattva gun, in dharma, in spirituality, we're established on the right path, then the war may happen, but the war affects people differently. Millions of people also escaped. Like when the war happened in India, Prabhupada was in Calcutta, and bombs, he said, were landing left and right, but no bomb hit him. He was sitting in his house, and Prabhupada actually says this, he was eating kachoris. He was cooking and eating kachoris. And others were running to the bomb shelter, but Prabhupada didn't. He said, well, if I'm supposed to die, I'll die. If not, I won't die. He was so fearless. Why? Because he knew about the protection of the Lord, and he knew about the laws of nature. And he said, whatever is destined is destined. Of course, we cannot imitate that. But Prabhupada was eating kachoris when the war happened. And many people in Ukraine, they're in the middle of the war. There are bombs falling to the left and right, but not on their home. And other places they're falling. So why one civilian is getting hurt and the other is not? That is because of the Lord's plan. Again, we cannot judge people. So why they felt, we cannot say, oh, that person was sinful. Maybe that person was a great devotee of the Lord. He was a great servant of Jesus Christ, and Jesus Christ was testing them. So Bhishadev in the Bhagavatam says that ultimately suffering is due to the plan of the Lord, and we cannot know the plan of the Lord. So we can't point at anyone and say, oh, this was your karma. We must say, no, this is the plan of the Lord, and we don't know it. But for ourselves, we can say, yes, this is due to my karma. I must have done something wrong, therefore I'm suffering. And also philosophically, we can understand that people suffer due to their past karma, and therefore we should be afraid of our karma, therefore we should do the right thing. So philosophically, also we can understand this. But we cannot point to an individual and say, this is your karma. One, because that's not compassionate. And second, because that's also not right. We don't know. It may be their karma. It may be the Lord's plan. It may be because Krishna wants them to advance spiritually, and they're actually very advanced souls. So therefore, we don't, we don't take judgment in our hands. We are no one to judge. But yes, philosophically, we know that this is, in general, it's our choice. Things happen because of our own choice.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. This helps. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice question. Thank you very much. Anita Mataji?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. I
Hare
have
Krishna.
two questions, Prabhu. At the beginning of the class, I didn't get it, that why do we miss the part of the fourth chapter, number one? And the another question, so I was like kind of focusing on chapter 4. I didn't pay attention on chapter 5, didn't read ahead of class. So I'm missing the meaning of Yukta Vairagya and Vairagya, the difference between them. And Sankhya, plain Sankhya and Sankhya Yoga. These two words is giving me some kind of confusion that I didn't catch it, the beginning, first part of the class.
Yes, thank you. So I didn't complete chapter 4 because I took a few weeks off and I was traveling to India, and we lost the flow a little bit. So I didn't remember where exactly we ended. So I thought, well, you can self-study the rest. I did cover most of it, but some of it got left. So I apologize for that. But as far as Yukta Vairagya and Vairagya, so Vairagya means renunciation. But Yukta Vairagya is actually true renunciation, which means that it is Vairagya, it is renunciation, but it's renunciation by seeing the yukta. Yukta, remember, comes from the root yuj, which means connection. By seeing the connection with Krishna. So renouncing the world but seeing everything's connection with Krishna. So I gave the example of the person, 3 people with the wallet, right? So person number 2 who just leaves the wallet as it is practicing vairagya. They're practicing detachment. The person number 3 who takes the wallet and gives it back to the owner, sees the connection with the owner, that person is practicing yukta vairagya. Similarly, if I renounce wealth, I'm practicing vairagya. If I take the money and I try to build a temple for Krishna, that is called yukta vairagya. It's seeing the use of the money in service to Krishna.
Yes.
That's the difference between vairagya and yukta vairagya. And then the difference between Sankhya and Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya is the knowledge of, as I was describing, the knowledge of chemistry. Sankhya is the knowledge of how the different elements in this world are covering the soul. That's Sankhya, means just the knowledge. Sankhya Yoga is then the yoga or the practice by which you use that knowledge to uncover the soul, like peeling off the layers of the onion I was describing, right? So you peel off the layers of the onion. I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not this. So then what am I? I'm the pure spirit soul. I'm not earth, I'm not water, I'm not air, I'm not ether, I'm not my sense of sight, I'm not the sense of touch, I'm not the sense of sound. What am I? I'm the soul. So the yogis, when they practice Sankhya, that is called Sankhya Yoga. It's a path of complete detachment, renunciation, right? That's Sankhya Yoga versus Karma Yoga. So how is it complete detachment? It's saying, I'm none of this, so I'm going to detach myself from all of this. Some Sankhya Yoga is good for us because then we don't try to lead a life of luxury and gluttony. But too much Sankhya Yoga is not possible for us. Therefore, we do Karma Yoga, specifically Nishkam Karma Yoga, where we engage everything in Krishna's service.
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah. Thank you for explaining it again. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. It was nice questions, actually. Nice clarification. Okay, thank you very much. So we will stop at this point. Thank you for your tolerance and for your kindness. And I will post chapter 5 on the group. And so please read and chapter 5 and try to answer the questions. And if my internet connection is good, the next week we will meet to discuss chapter 6. And yes, someone mentioned in the chat, I was just in Mayapur a few days ago, and now I came to Jaipur. And I want to tell all of you that Mayapur is so nice. It's nice in every season. Everyone told us, that, oh, this is the worst season. Don't go to Mayapur, it'll be so hot. But actually, Mayapur is not too hot. Mayapur is like 90 degrees Fahrenheit because it's very tropical. So except when it's flooding there, which happens like once in 6 or 7 years, and it's like you have to go by boat. Except when it's flooding, Mayapur is nice every part of the year. And it was very, very blissful in Mayapur. Any season, in summer you go, in winter you go, make sure to visit Mayapur. It's so nice. It's just like, it's like a spiritual Disney world. That's what it feels like. You have a huge Goshala there. The kids enjoy it. They think that they're at the zoo. There's all these cows and they pet the cows. But it's like a spiritual zoo because all the animals are happy. Like you go to a normal zoo and you feel so horrible because the animals inside are crying. But in this case, the cows are so happy and the devotees are also so happy. So, you have that, then you have this beautiful temple, which they're finishing next year, like amazing temple. And then you have these various, they have these like video shows. People can attend this dome that you can go inside and you watch this show. So it's like a spiritual Disney world. And then you have the Ganges. You have the Ganges and you have the Jalangi, both spiritual rivers. And so bathing in them is like bathing in the ocean. It's so warm and the water is nice. And you have to be careful in the Ganges, very careful. Right at the edge, it's like 20 feet deep. But yes, it's a very nice spot. Vrindavan is actually very austere sometimes because it takes more qualification to go there. But Mayapur is just like a spiritual Disney World. So hope you all can come and spend time in Mayapur. Thank you again for your association. See you all next week. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna,
Thank you
Prabhuji.
so much.
Hare
Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Then with Pranam.
Hare Krishna.